Halfway through the year, 4th of July coming up around the corner. How are you doing in meeting your financial goals for the year? You're on track? Are you off track? Well, the reality is it's not too late to get back on track. Certainly the turning point in the year is a great reason to re-look at all of those things that you plan to do this year. Still plenty of time left in the year to be able to do it, but the days do pass very quickly. So we want to encourage people to take a look at those financial goals that they had to try and get back on track if you've become off track. And certainly on the program, with it being 4th of July weekend, we're sharing some stories about memories on the 4th of July. And we hope that you have a very fun period of time here over the weekend celebrating this great country of ours. So some great memories. We hope you are creating some great memories as well, whether that be raising kids and taking them to see the fireworks with the neighbors, all of those fun things. And so certainly one of the things that seems ubiquitous out there that you hear an awful lot about, besides it being a holiday weekend, is one of the things that you hear about for many years is this notion of investing in index funds. It seems like that's all that everybody talks about these days. And so you got so many folks that are really focused on talking about index funds and how they work, and they're so much better than any other outcome out there. And a lot of people are persuaded to use them and ultimately invest in them. But there's certainly some things to consider. And we understand sort of that need to sort of hit the easy button, right? Because we see it all the time as we're driving around, just sort of in the number of fast food restaurants, right? I mean, between when you leave your office and when you get home, you probably pass a dozen different drive-thrus, and each one of them offering a little different kind of food, if you will, or food options. And we've all been there, right? Long day at work and ultimately looking to grab some food rather than get home and do dinner prep, and the kids have a baseball game and the schedule is very full. So we go through those drive-thrus and we certainly save time, but I guess at the end of the day, how do you feel, right? After the meal is done and over with, you kind of know, I think we all know that, when someone's handing you food out a window and you're sitting in your car, that's probably not the healthiest thing on the planet for you. And so ultimately what you've done there, right, is you have traded convenience for quality. You've paid for it and you've sacrificed your health. And I think indexed investing, as popular as it is, certainly has a lot of parallels to that concept, because there are certainly some major costs, just as there are when you choose sort of the unhealthy but yet quick drive-through. There is a cost when you own index funds. And so one of the things that we're going to say next is going to come as a surprise. But if you think about it, it's absolutely the case. Index funds will never perform as well as the index that they are tracking. Let me say that again. Index funds will never perform as well as the index that they are tracking. They will always underperform the index. It doesn't matter how good that index fund is. It doesn't matter how cheap or low the expenses are inside that fund. By its very nature, by the presence of any expense versus the index, and anytime you have an index fund, there has to be an expense, because it does take someone to put all of those portfolio holdings together to make up the fund. Then at the end of the day, there's always going to be an expense, which means then that if I've got a fund that has all the holdings of the index, but yet there's an expense, well, then the math would say, well, then it's never going to it's never going to do as well. It's always going to underperform, and it's certainly never going to overperform. So that's sort of the reality check, if you will, on these index funds. Make no mistake, they're very popular. They're as popular as your favorite drive-through window, but they certainly do have some negatives associated with them. I think people forget along the way. They kind of choose the easy button, choose the convenient. Okay, and certainly there's a lot of money that has flowed into index funds. If you look at the past 4 years, 2018 to 2022, the amount of money in passively managed index funds over doubled. That's a tremendous growth of money that is pouring into something that, when you stop and think about it, is always going to be a subpar product for how it is billed. But the amount of people that are putting money in, almost as busy as the Chick-fil-A drive-through on a Saturday afternoon, right? And certainly we've all been there on that. A lot of people, but you're really kind of paying for convenience. The other thing, too, that you have to remember on an index fund is that you don't control any of the holdings, or should I say nobody controls the holdings that are in the fund, because they are designed to perfectly match the index as its own. So what that means is that if there's a company in that index that you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense to own this company because it doesn't really have any earnings, or the price is really, really high, or it's not running a particularly good business. You don't have any say in whether you're going to own that particular company or not. If it's part of the index, then you're going to own it inside the index. So much like the convenience, maybe you're okay with paying more to always get less, but we think that's a bad proposition. So we want to encourage folks this week to sort of take a look at that and look at the role of index funds in your own personal portfolio. Are you utilizing them for the bulk of your portfolio? Is that really what your portfolio is designed to do? And what's crazy about this, and we see this all the time, is that a lot of people in the financial advisory business will use them and then layer investment management or advisory fees on top of them, which is just even more incredulous. That, first of all, you've got a product that's never going to perform as well as the index that's supposed to replicate. It's always going to underperform. It will never overperform. And then someone is layering on an additional fee or expense just so you can own that. It boggles the mind, some of the things that we see on a regular basis. Look, the important thing is to always know what you own and make sure that you're getting what you are paying for. Hey, if you like the Chick-fil-A #1, we get it. It's good stuff, but it's not perhaps as good as what you might otherwise be eating if you had the time to put together a well-balanced meal. And so consequently, we think that analogy to that fast food approach and that index investing is very, very close. So we encourage folks to really take a moment and look at their portfolio. At Nelson Financial Planning, we like to sort of run what we refer to as sort of a Morningstar. Morningstar is a big third-party independent, kind of analysis company. And we ultimately use reports that help run x-rays on our client portfolios to see how they are doing, to ultimately understand what the underlying mix is and what the underlying investments are. So certainly that's something that you want to be doing on a regular basis. You really should be drilling into your portfolio, or if you have an advisor, that they should be doing that. And if they're not, well then, our website is nelsonfinancialplanning.com. Go visit us and reach out to us on the Contact Us page and see if we can help, because the reality is you want to be drilling down into that portfolio to see how you are doing based upon that relative performance. So certainly some of the things to be thinking about this 4th of July weekend. With that, we're going to take a break and continue here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning.